We're going to go across to the Moldovan capital, where we are going to hear from the country's president as she greets European leaders, including the French president, Emmanuel Macron.
Celebrates 34 years of independence. Your presence here of the leaders of these three countries that are very much respected by Moldovans to celebrate the birthday of the Republic of Moldova, our national day, is for us a clear sign of your respect for the Republic of Moldova and for Moldovans. We feel in the recent years, and today even more, that we are a family, and in a family all the joy is shared and the difficulties are carried together. For this solidarity, we thank you very much. Dear friends, Europe was born as a peace project. Now, about 75 years ago, after the most destroying war in history, the visionary leaders of France and Germany have had the courage to build together a united Europe where former rivals became partners. Some time later, Poland, after decades of dictatorship, showed that freedom and democracy can get reborn and can strengthen Europe. Today, Moldova steps on the path of this history. Like your countries, we know what does it mean to fight for freedom, to want to have peace and to have a future for your children. We always looked with admiration to France, Germany and Poland because of your culture, your democratic tradition, your courage and perseverance with which you've built your prosperity. Our Moldova had a different story or history, even if Moldovans did carry on from generation to generation traditions, identity and language, did fight for liberty, for freedom years along. They remained to be strong, even when they were deported or arrested. But nevertheless, about our sufferings, few people knew. But in the recent years, our voice became stronger and we've been heard. Now, people do not simply know about Moldova, but our country is seen or viewed with respect. The Republic of Moldova is now on the map of the world. It was not and is not an easy road, but now we are going through it with allies and friends that are always with us or along with us. Today we are celebrating a free country respected for its honest and industrious people, for the sweet fruits, the high-quality wines, welcoming localities, and for our solidarity. Always, the kindness was on the first place for Moldovans, and despite our vulnerabilities, we've opened our houses and huts to our neighbors, Ukrainians, who were running from the bombs. History was very hard on us. We've been at the crossroads of wars for many times, but we've remained to be strongly to stay here. And no matter how difficult it was, we are on the good side of history. In the last 4 years, we managed very many important things. We've strengthened our state institutions, we've consolidated energy security so that no one can blackmail us. The European aid or help that gets to Moldova is invested in our localities, and the progress in the development is felt more and more. We've got access to the biggest market in the world, the European market, and here our producers find stability, clear rules, and real opportunities, not embargoes and blackmail. We've built strong friendships that make us also stronger. Today, our friends are here along with us to say clearly that Moldova counts. And European Union integration is not a faraway dream, but it's a project on which we are working. It's a project in our hands, and we have no right to lose it. We have no right to allow for these difficult times to get back, so that between us and Europe there is another, again, lack or gap that we cannot overcome. Dear friends, your presence here, France, Germany, Poland, shows not just support for Moldova, but also the fact that the European project continues, and we are part of it. And here I would like to say very clearly, the alternative to Europe does not exist. And without European Union, Moldova remains blocked in the past. We feel this at every bomb that is thrown over the neighboring country. This war of Russia against Ukraine shows on a daily basis that Europe means freedom and peace. Putin's Russia means war and death. Moldovans have chosen already the correct direction, the European path, the path of peace. But we all know that independence is not something guaranteed. It depends on the elections, on the choices we make. Today, the independence, sovereignty, our peace are at stake more than any time. Interference is in our elections, illegal financing from outside, disinformation campaigns, cyber attacks, paid protests, the use of the church and of online platforms for anti-European messages, sabotage of the diaspora's vote, the propagation of hate between communities. All this are enormous or huge pressures, and it depends on us if this will manage to divide us or stop us from our path. We understand our responsibility. Last year, we've had a very difficult fight for democracy, and the Moldovans impressed the whole world by the fact how they were straight and proved their vote in front of very strong and much bigger external forces. We will have our future that we wish only if we protect it. Only Moldovans are the ones who have to decide for Moldova. The courage of the Moldovans, our dignity and our honest work will make Europe even stronger, safer, more united and prosperous. On this Independence Day, we are celebrating the story of our country. We've looked with admiration to the story of European construction years in a row. Today, Moldova is part of this construction. We are not alone, and this makes us stronger. It gives us more strength to continue to maintain the peace, freedom, and development in our country, and we are doing it along with our European family. Long live Moldova.
Thank you very much, President. Now I would like to offer the floor to President Mr. Macron.
Thank you very much, Madam President, dear Maia, Prime Minister, dear Donald, Federal Chancellor, dear Friedrich, ladies and gentlemen. You said Moldova is important, and this is the reason why you are here today on this very important day. It's a great pleasure and an honor, at your invitation, Madam President, to be here in the celebration of Moldova's Independence Day here in Chisinau, alongside both my friends and also your European friends. With the Chancellor and the Prime Minister, we felt it was crucial to jointly accept this invitation to come and celebrate this symbolic day, which marks Moldova's entry into an era of renewed sovereignty and freedom. So together we would like to convey a message of friendship, solidarity and confidence in the future to the Moldovan people. As you said it, we see that while there is some willingness to contest your democracy, we can see that some would like democracy not to be working anymore here. So we are coming here to say that we really have a lot of confidence in your future. We think that Moldova really is important, that its future is within the European Union, that it's already part of the European Union and of its construction, and that your reforms should be continued. Moldova has come a long way since the 27th of August 1991, and over the past 34 years, your country has endured hardships and made considerable progress. 3 years ago, Moldova took a new step in history by submitting its application to join the European Union. And last year, Moldovans chose to enshrine this goal in the Constitution of the Republic of Moldova. This is a strong gesture showing your determination to decide Moldova's future for yourself. Alongside its European partners, France fully supports this choice. It's a sovereign choice, it's a clear choice. We know that this is a demanding process for each candidate country, and I know that you have put into place a lot of measures, reforms, like the reform of justice, and many measures of modernization in different sectors. And we all are very pleased to see that Moldova has made significant progress in recent months in preparing for accession with the European Commission. And this led the European Commission and then all the member states to approve the first payments under the Growth and Reform Plan for Moldova with a budget of 1.9 billion euros allocated over the coming 2 years. These reforms are sometimes hard because they mean that we need to adapt, and sometimes they can cause impatience. This is only natural. However, I do see that the citizens of Moldova have understood that joining the EU represents a historic opportunity for the future of the country, an opportunity in terms of prosperity and security. It will lead to the modernization of infrastructure and the economy. It will open up new opportunities for young people and all economic stakeholders who will gain access to a huge market of 450 million consumers. Rest assured that France will therefore continue to provide strong support to Moldova during the next steps of its path toward accession. At the same time, in France, in Germany, in Poland, throughout the EU, it will be our responsibility to really explain all the efforts that have been made over the past years and to make Moldova better known in our countries. At the bilateral level, France will continue to support Moldova by providing the technical expertise it needs and by funding projects to improve the lives of citizens. In particular, thanks to the decisive action of the French Development Agency, which has already spent 250 million euros in the fields of energy, natural resources and infrastructure. France will also continue and strengthen its long-standing commitment to education and culture in Moldova. I would like to mention in particular the launch in Moldova and Romania of the digital platform of the European channel Arte and also the broadcasting of RFI. I would also like to thank Moldova for officially recognizing the French baccalaureate and mention the launch at the beginning of the 2025 academic year of a double French language law degree between Sorbonne University and Moldova State University. This program of excellence will contribute to training the next generations of high-level lawyers who will practice in our countries and throughout Europe. We will also continue our efforts to preserve Moldova's heritage as part of a joint project to refurbish 2 buildings with iconic architecture in the capital, the Herza and Kligman houses. This project, which I know, dear Maia, is particularly dear to your heart, will also be a very concrete contribution to promoting your cultural heritage and its deep roots in Europe's long history. And to conclude, while a few hundred kilometers from your capital, the war of aggression launched by Russia against Ukraine continues, it is also important to recall here that European integration is a clear choice for Moldova in favor of peace and the rule of law. Kremlin propaganda tells us that Europeans want to prolong the war and that the EU oppresses peoples. These are lies. Unlike Russia, the European Union does not threaten anyone and respects the sovereignty of each country. This union is a union where everyone can choose freely and sovereignly to join, and the sovereignty of each country is respected. It's a union of prosperity and of peace. The European Union is not the Soviet Union. Having learned from the tragedies of last century, our nations have chosen the path of peace and reconciliation. And the EU that Moldova now aspires to join is a community of values that shares a belief in the idea of democracy and human dignity and has chosen to exercise a number of powers jointly while respecting the identity of each member. Nothing more, nothing less. So this is the message of support, solidarity and confidence that we wanted to convey today. We have confidence in our common future in Europe. So this is the reason why being alongside you, Madam President, today is a tribute to your people, but also to your courage and your determination, and also a tribute to our common confidence for the future of Moldova in the European Union. Thank you very much.
Invităm pe domnul prim-ministru Tusk să ia cuvântul.
Madam President, dear Maia, dear President, dear Emmanuel, dear Chancellor Friedrich, that's a great honor and personal satisfaction that I can be today here in Chisinau, together with the President of France and Chancellor of Germany, to celebrate the Independence Day of the Republic of Moldova. Thank you very much, Madam President, again for your invitation. Nobody in Europe would refuse such invitation. Madam President, you are the President of Moldova, and for many years you have been a great authority, political and moral authority for all Europeans who cherish freedom, courage and human decency. You are a model to all of us. Thank you very much, Maia. And I'd like to thank all the citizens of the Republic of Moldova, and let me convey to you my best wishes and my congratulations on the occasion of your Independence Day. I was here 1 year ago, and many things happened since then. First of all, Moldovans decided in referendum to take the European path. I've been convinced, and I'm always convinced, that that's the great news to Moldova and to the European Union as a whole. Let me just repeat. I think that some things need to be repeated, even if they are self-evident. But we live in times when post-truth is so widespread, when we have so many lies, so many fake news. That is why I believe that we need to say out loud the enlargement of the European Union with Moldova and with other aspiring countries, countries which either apply for or are in the accession process, is in the interest of these countries and in the interest of Moldova, I'm absolutely sure. But it also is in the interest of the whole European continent. This is a joint effort, and there is no favor here from anyone to anyone. A safe, prosperous and stable Moldova as part of the European Union is in the vital interest of the European Union as a whole. Peace, prosperity and security of the European Union and its member states are linked with peace, prosperity and security of Moldova. Europe will be stronger with Moldova. Your resilience, your loyalty to values and your voice will make Union much richer. To put it simply, there will be no safe Europe and there will be no safe Poland, France or Germany without an independent and safe Moldova. Poland took the path of integration and full independence much earlier. We've lived 30 years of transformation, political transition, and that was done in the context of the EU membership. This path to Europe was not easy at all. We are ready to share our experiences. Actually, anyone who can visit Poland can see the outcomes and can assess the outcomes. You were to Warsaw, Madam President, in July, and you said plenty of compliments about us as anyone. I'm ready to take compliments about Poland and about Warsaw, about all the changes. This is encouraging, and I'm ready to take many efforts. And today I landed at the airport, and actually I've made plenty of visits here, and I've seen your achievements in my eyes, and I know and I do understand how challenging the situation is and what are your enemies, and actually your achievements are outstanding, truly outstanding. Thank you very much for the recognition of our achievements, and hats off to you in return, because you've made miracles and you should be proud. Moldova is exactly the country you want to have in the European Union. They're extremely ambitious, brave, and rich in traditions. Extremely hardworking and ready to stand for what is right, even if the challenges ahead are extremely serious. And everybody in Europe knows your heritage and your tradition. Music and dance present in everyday life are really unique, and we need this unique value in Europe. I landed here at the airport named this year after the European composer Eugen Doga, and he is already the member of the pantheon of European culture. And we have a linking figure because there is a Polish composer, Mieczysław Weinberg, who used Moldovan themes in his works, and actually his music was performed during the last 6 months here in Chisinau, in the Polish presidency of the European Union. And this is just yet another proof of many ties and a friendship between our countries and societies. The tradition of peaceful coexistence of cultures and languages is another value that we all need to share. Open hearts, open minds are great treasures here in Europe and across the world, and they sometimes get unnoticed in this globalized world. And actually we can learn from you, from your attachment to these authentic values. Today's Moldova is not just a country located, an intermediate country located between two worlds. No, Moldova today is the country that has chosen its direction and is moving forward. I know that some of you would say it cannot be done. You've faced a number of challenges, but you never given up. You were able to fight against the cold when bad people turned off the tap with the gas supplies. And you were able to resist soaring prices, and you stood this crisis and were able to manage. And you resist to lies, to hostile propaganda as well. This shows your moral and intellectual condition. You've chosen the right path, as I believe, the European path. And this is not an easy path for you. In Moldova, I know that you say by showing patience, you are able to cross the sea. Kura, Daria, Treci, Shimaria. But I believe this is something more than just patience. It's dignity, it's courage, and it's caution. 45 years ago, the Solidarity movement was born. I was back then in the Gdańsk shipyard among those who went on strike. That was the very beginning of the fall of the Soviet Empire. And I must say, we had to learn to be patient back then, because we had to wait 10 years from that big strike on for the Soviet Union to collapse. I believe that this thing that seems to be impossible today will become possible for you. We know that the war in Ukraine is a source of pain to all of us. That is why we work together to reach the sustainable and just peace. The stability and peace in the region are key to Europe, and Moldova, as a country of peace, has experienced the consequences of this conflict. As Poland, you are in the line of direct risk and threat. We know what it means, and we are ready to help. You also took in a number of Ukrainian refugees, and you stood on the right side of the history. I know these required sacrifices and, as always, courage. Despite external pressures, you were able to stand unwavering, brave, united and loyal to your values. Peace and stability in Moldova are extremely important for Europe because Europe is a peace project. Poland, Germany and France has not always had peaceful relations. Well, we didn't have a lot of troubles with France, but anyway. But European integration helps us to live under the peace dividend. It's good to have peace. It's about dignity, it's about moral values, but it's also about stability. That is why you've chosen the European Union, because you've chosen peace instead of war. Independence is not about one-day celebrations. It's an everyday effort. Moldova moves forward, head up, surrounded with friends. We support Moldova, and we support the aspiration of Moldovan authorities and the Moldovan society. That is why we are here today in Chisinau, in order to talk and to celebrate together, as dictated by your Moldovan tradition, the tradition that now is becoming our shared tradition.
Mr. Tusk, domnule cancelar Merz, aveți cuvântul.
Mr. Chancellor Merz, you have the floor.
Madam President, dear Maia Sandu, Prime Minister, President, dear colleagues, friends and neighbors from France, Emmanuel Macron, Donald Tusk from Poland, ladies and gentlemen, today, exactly 34 years ago, on the 27th of August 1991, the Republic of Moldova declared its independence. It is, for me, a personal honor and pleasure at the same time that we are here to celebrate this day in this city, in this country, together with our friends, with Donald Tusk and Emmanuel Macron, that I've been invited to spend this day here with you. Today we're celebrating that for one generation now, the people in Moldova have been allowed to live in freedom, in growing prosperity and in peace. We are celebrating that the people of Moldova and that the country of Moldova has exercised its right to self-determination, set out on the path towards the European Union. And this is not something that we could have taken for granted. Things could have taken a different turn. Russia's brutal war of aggression has demonstrated that to us day in, day out. And things could still take a different turn. The people in this country, the people in Moldova, are aware of that 1 month before the elections, which can be of decisive importance for their future, for the future path of their country. Emmanuel Macron, Donald Tusk and I have come here bringing two messages, the first of which is the following. The door to the European Union is open. You are very welcome indeed in the European Union. Moldova is not only in geographical terms, but also, historically speaking, part of the European family. In the referendum last year, you took a decision in favor of pursuing the path leading to the European Union. Since the beginning of the accession negotiations, the Moldovan government has resolutely and successfully continued and set in motion the necessary reforms. We want to and will continue to support you on this path to the best of our abilities. In autumn this year, we will do whatever we can to allow the opening of the first negotiations chapters. Germany will continue to second experts to support Moldova's reform policies. We are providing tangible support, we, the Europeans and the Germans, in the field of making energy supply affordable, but also when it comes to supporting small and medium-sized companies. And our second message is the following. We support you and assist you in safeguarding your freedom and your sovereignty. We are very much aware of how much Moldova in particular has been suffering under Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. And we are aware of the concern with which you have been following the events at the front and the Russian aerial warfare. Allow me to use this opportunity to be very clear and say that this war has to end. Like you, we want to see weapons in Ukraine to finally fall silent, ideally today, with immediate effect. However, not at any cost. We don't want to see a capitulation of Ukraine. Such a capitulation would only mean buying time for Russia, and Putin would use that time in order to prepare the next war. And this is why we want and we need a peace that is lasting in character. And this is what we're working on. We're putting everything into it together with our partners in the United States of America and in Europe. We're doing this for Ukraine, but we're doing it also for us. And for ourselves, we're doing it for Moldova. Day in, day out, Russia has been relentlessly trying to undermine freedom, prosperity and peace in Moldova, to disrupt it and to call it into question. For Moscow, the 27th of August is not a day of celebration and anything but a celebration of freedom. For President Putin, the disintegration of the Soviet Union, and he's made that point himself as the biggest catastrophe of the 20th century. He wants to turn back time. And he wants to draw Moldova too back into the Russian sphere of influence. No day, therefore, goes by in the run-up to parliamentary elections in this country without massive hybrid attacks by Russia. And the target is Moldova's democracy, online as well as offline. Targeted is the free democratic society. And that is why Germany provides support to Moldova. That is why Europe provides support and assistance to Moldova. We support Moldova as it tries to fight disinformation and cyber campaigns. We assist your country and your people by strengthening your security forces. We're working with our friends and try to provide assistance in the framework of the partnership platform. Madam President, dear Maia, Germany, France and Poland are standing here today with the President of the Republic of Moldova, but more than that, we stand here as Europeans, side by side, but above all at the side of a free and European Republic of Moldova. Congratulations. And I say this, address myself to the citizens of this country. I address myself to you, the President of this country, of this great country that is We are delighted to be spending this day with you. Thank you very much indeed.
Mulțumim, domnule Merz, și mulțumim tuturor.
Thank you, Mr. Merz, and thanks to all the guests who honored us with our presence.
You were just listening to the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz speak alongside the Prime Minister of Poland, the French president, and the president of Moldova. They are in the country on the 34th anniversary of its independence. They also happen to be in the country before campaigning starts ahead of next month's crucial parliamentary elections. This amid claims of Russian interference. For more on this story, we can bring in France 24's foreign affairs commentator Douglas Herbert, who was listening to what all those leaders had to say. I think it was interesting because what they all seem to touch on is how Moldova has its ambitions set on joining the European Union. It's at a critical time because when you join the European Union, you have to make a lot of reforms within your country.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily easy for the public to digest. And this is something Emmanuel Macron touched on.
Absolutely. And you're right. Not only does Moldova have its sights set on an EU path going forward, but late last year, it held a referendum, which the leaders referred to, in which it narrowly passed the referendum, but basically they enshrined the, quote, irreversibility of Moldova's European path, that is, the voters in this referendum enshrined the European path in the country's constitution. So this European course is not just a matter of sort of caprice or whim or one politician wanting it. It was actually the subject of a referendum that was then rendered constitutionally enshrined. That said, I think Friedrich Merz, who was last to speak, sort of went to the heart of this by reminding those listening of Vladimir Putin's now infamous comments about the collapse of the Soviet Union being the greatest geopolitical disaster tragedy of the 20th century. And that really goes to the hub of why this is a significant visit, because Moldova is a tiny nation. But the symbolism couldn't be bigger because it really is in the crosshairs of that struggle, that tug of war between East and West, between Russia, the former Soviet Union, and obviously since Putin's come to power, it has been enshrined in his entire philosophy. Putin's philosophy is the near abroad, and it has defined a foreign policy in his 2.5 decades in power, under which Russia has worked in various ways, not just in Moldova. We've seen it in Georgia. We've obviously seen it in the full-fledged war in Ukraine. We've seen it in other areas around the fringes of the former lands of the Soviet Empire. He has tried to restore what was the Soviet influence, what it sees as its sphere of rightful influence, its orbit, so to speak, restore it in a world where many of those countries had started to tilt away. And what makes this such a strained and such a fraught battle is that in Putin's vision, this is not based on, none of what's happening in Moldova, as Putin sees it, is based on natural aspirations of a lot of the Moldovan people. Not all. There are large segments of the Moldovan population, especially in the Russian-speaking areas, who do tilt towards Moscow, who do have much more pro-Kremlin, pro-Russian affinities by virtue of language, perhaps culture as well. But this is basically right now what's going on here. Putin sees it as the culmination of a decades-long Western plot, a conspiracy, if you will, to subjugate these nations and to pull them into the Western orbit. Not just a plot by one that has been orchestrated by Western intelligence agencies, by the CIA. You might call it paranoia. You might say this is something that sounds like conspiracy, lunacy, fringe thinking. But this defines Russian foreign policy. It is not fringe thinking in Russia. And Merz was completely right in pointing out today, the 34th anniversary of Moldovan independence on August 27th, 1991, is not a celebration in Moscow. Putin is not celebrating today in any way, shape, or form.
We had Emmanuel Macron who sort of corrected Russian propaganda. He spoke about what the European Union stood for and not what Russia thinks it does stand for, sort of talking directly with the Moldovan public. But I'm curious, the fact that these three leaders are there, it's a big thing for them to be in this small country that's not an EU member.
Absolutely.
does it do more than just provide symbolism?
Yeah. Well,
at the end
first
of
of
the
all,
day?
Delano, let's not give short shrift to the power of symbolism. I know it's easy to roll your eyes and get all cynical. Oh, what is their presence there today? So what? These three European leaders standing there with the president of a small country that most people, if they've heard of it at all, never think about. It does matter because, like I said, because of the symbolism of what the Moldovan struggle stands for right now. Let's not forget that last year there was two things that happened at the same time, right? The referendum I just talked about, in which narrowly Moldovans chose to enshrine that European path in their constitution. It coincided with a presidential election, a very nail-biting election that she just narrowly secured. And why was it so narrow? Why was it so nail-biting? Well, in the estimation of certainly the leaders standing there today, and a lot of Moldovans who will tell you the stories themselves, it's because Russia has led a virulent, and sometimes not up front because they won't acknowledge it explicitly.
She spoke about this cash and stuff.
Paying for votes. Paying for votes, that is people to vote for pro-Kremlin friendly candidates. Disinformation in the form of deep fakes, making opposition candidates, in the liberal government of Sandu saying things that they never said at all. And also general efforts, hybrid efforts, tactics at destabilizing a country which is, let's be clear, divided. 100% of Moldovans are not for the European path. There are sways of Moldova, including Transnistria, which has semi-autonomy, but which has a Russian military presence in the east of the country, the Gagauz in the south. These are a lot of these are not wedded to the European path. And in this respect, Putin's strategy, his hybrid tactics, have been successful because those disinformation campaigns, the destabilization efforts, even the buying vote efforts, they have divided populations. And you'll speak to Moldovans who openly dislike Maia Sandu and what she stands for. You could say, okay, they drank the Kool-Aid, they've fallen prey to the Russian propaganda, but it's more complicated than that. People are more complex than that. There are some who truly do have greater affinity for Russia and the Kremlin and Putin's direction and his vision than for what seemed to these leaders a no-brainer. Why wouldn't they go for the stable, prosperous European path? That's why it's so complicated right now, not just in Moldova, but also in Georgia, also in the country which has a full-fledged war over Putin's near-abroad philosophy, Ukraine.
Douglas, thank you very much for that. Douglas Herbert there. More news coming up.